All right, Lane here. Tonight we are going to draw some Digimon. We're going to draw some Digimon Future, which is an idea for an app-based video game, a smartphone video game, taking in the legacy of Pokemon Go, but with sophisticated RPG combat and a Tamagotchi element. So as you catch your Digimon, you take care of your Digimon, it digivolves over time. You have to feed it, take care of it. There's a Nintendogs type aspect. And Tamagotchi is a really fun concept. It's a concept that I forgot about until recently. This game, Tamagotchis are something I don't always think about, but whenever I do, I'm positively reminded. And in taking in this little cat, I was just personally very amazed and impressed of the joy of having a pet and caring about that pet, and that kind of leading me into the concept of the universe, spirit, source, God caring about you. To imagine it caring about you in the same unconditional way was powerful. It was moving. It changed my life. And when I was meditating, when I was praying, I was imagining a deeper current of love than I had experienced beforehand. And that kind of brought me to the idea that the game could be a vehicle for creating that love of self, that love of the world around you, of having a game and a system that encouraged unconditional love, even if for this fictional creature, that loves you back. Your Digimon loves you, your Digimon needs you. And in that way, it could just be an awesome vector for arts and design, all kinds of menus, all kinds of effects, all kinds of sound effects. And some of my favorite sound effects and menus and UI, the user interface for my favorite Japanese games, all came to mind, and creating a foundation to make something new, to make something original, to make something that is an evolution of the building blocks and the things that have come before. And just knowing this would be a radically awesome game, even throwing in some of the real world elements of Pokemon Go in a totally safe way, where you could explore the world around you, and it encourages you to get out and take part with the real world with this fictional interface, to get people going out, going to parks, getting fresh air, getting lost in the game, but then meeting new people through the game, and it creating a safe, positive space to do these things. And working out all the details from that, Pokemon Go is already a radically successful example of that system in action, and a period of trial and error for that system. So we see what works, we see what doesn't work, we evolve and move through it. Okay, so we're going to be drawing some Digimon today, and we're going to be remixing them as well. I'll have a series where we talk about the game concept and what could be done with it over time, I think, and maybe we'll do a little bit of that as we move forward. This is kind of just a starting run, even if only for myself, to see examples of me drawing, and other partners and collaborators, or something that we release online to show people what I've been up to. And in time, we can go back in and do a more professional video if we want. So we'll come back in, we'll draw some favorite Digimon, we'll draw some new Digimon. I have a list of all Digimon here. Apparently there's 1,534 Digimon, which, that's a lot. That is maybe too much to start a game with. So I was thinking of, remixing them and starting with a smaller list that then we could evolve on, and having an arts team. The idea is to get this thing funded, either crowdfunded or personally funded from investors and companies, and get an entire team to develop content and resources that it has the best arts direction in the world, coming in the legacy of Final Fantasy VII. My favorite game of all time, is $100 million spent almost entirely in arts and effects. There was also the graphics engine, which is cutting edge, but most of the budget was spent on the arts and design and effects, and the result that came up with was absolutely amazing. I'm surprised more games haven't gone on to try like a huge budget thrown into arts and design to make it something distinct and original and signature. Uh, Over time, I figured video game budgets would have grown with the profits that they bring in, but they're really just kind of built on a model of making them as cost effective as possible while maintaining that high quality. But if you go beyond the expected Call of Duty and rise beyond that, I think that there is a vast field of untapped potential, especially in the world of arts and design. And to expand and deliberate and make collaborative your series of arts and design, so you don't just get good arts and design, you get new arts and design, you get awesome arts and design. And with tools like AI making it even they're massive assets to an arts and design team. And I don't think that means you should invest less in arts and design. Of course, if you can't hire on a full arts team with your concept, but with such amazing, elaborate tools, we can get even greater results from our investment, and it's an even greater reason to invest in original arts and design, whereas AI exceeds in being able to remix existing designs in new ways. Human designers can come up with new shapes and characters and ideas and remix things together in new ways that haven't been done before, which is super cool and amazing. So we'll go in here and we'll start sketching some Digimon. We'll go in, of course, with the original Agumon. Agumon's awesome. We'll do a little bit of Digimon sketching here, and then maybe some foundational exercises, and then come back in for more Digimon sketching, because this is the first I am drawing of the night, and just thought I'd jump right in. This is a video and an idea that I've wanted to do for a little while. And it's something that even in the base concept of the idea, the dream that I had is this, give kids their choice to pick from a number of amazing creatures and get to see them create this bond and take part in this thriving collaborative world, meeting other players, and if you can battle, but also just like fighting challenges in the places to get rewards and level up your creatures, building a whole team of them, a team of them, you could even get to name them, and creating a foundation, creating a space for many artists to collaborate on this shared dream, and to make that dream capture some of the dreams of these kids that want an awesome game, that want a game that is beautiful and magic and fun, that reminds them of things they may have never gotten a chance to experience, or maybe are prized elements of their childhood. Like Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy arts and design budget, and even greater than the Final Fantasy arts and design budget, but placed into, creating something new, creating something fun, creating something foundational, something based on love, and creating something magic, that can help to, get kids excited, kids and everyone, with an imagination. Pokemon Go was universal. Everyone played that piece. Right now, I'm kind of just drawing a raptor. We definitely need to make him cute, His name is Agumon for a reason. Okay. We might just go in and quietly sketch for a little bit, and we'll talk about the design choices that we're making and the ideas that come in about this project and about each of these designs as we move forward. It's definitely not just going to be a realistic design of Digimon, but using at least a number of Digimon, but having the space to maybe create new Digimon and start a new mythology within the series. Let's go ahead and we'll do some reference of Digimon while we're going. And obviously I'm not referencing this exactly, but we'll change things up from there. And maybe Do a map. And while I'm doing this, I might just go ahead and say there is no way this project fails. Like, if it got made. And that was what I thought as I was imagining it. And, the dream is just to make the coolest thing possible, Something that my little brother and sister would love, something that I would love when I was their age and still love now, to this day, right? Something that isn't just a time waster, but is a positive, like a fun thing to do with your free time when you get out of school, when you get the chance to play video games and kick back a little bit. Something that wouldn't dominate 100% of your time, like a lot of games kind of try to, but has a sort of limit like Animal Crossing on it, where it encourages you to get out also into the real world, to do things other than game, but is a consistent point of progression, which some people say that's like bad about app games, like they're made to be addictive, and just to get you to like see a number going up over time while you go through these like repetitive tasks and motions. And like there's something intrinsically satisfying about seeing node of progression in your life, to be like, okay, there's progress every single day. You know that you're going somewhere and that you're leveling up even in there. To have a visualization for progression in your point of attraction be like awesome. I feel like we want to make him look more Nintendo and less realistic. I've been referencing realistic type like Final Fantasy creatures and animals, and realistic animals. But going through this, I definitely, whenever you start a project and start working on it, you will find what you need to be working on, and you will figure out exactly where you're at any given time. You shouldn't like put things off so that you can find the perfect reference so that you can begin. Go ahead and begin wherever you're at and see where you are and where it takes you. And then I'm liking a kind of realistic design on this. And then adjust your schedule, your workflow, your practice accordingly, But if you have an awesome idea for a story, I would put off designing like the main characters from my coolest stories, because I'm like, I want the skills to be able to tell this story. Even in a sense, I suppose I kind of still do that. And I'll have like, okay, I think that story would be fun, but other stories I'm working on, I feel like would be freaking awesome, would be cutting edge and unique, and is just something that captures my heart. But in that way, it's usually based on my favorite things, and then remixing those ideas in new ways and trying to come up with complementary things, and then letting the story or the project just breathe life on its own. Like a story I've been working on for a long time based on the South American mythology of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. It's got like rainbow colored feathers, and it's like a dinosaur serpent thing. It's really long. It's a deity of like creation. There's some parts of the mythology that are interpreted in different ways, but there's one interpretation that says it's like a god of collaboration, of renewal, of light, of the wind. And it's part of a cyclical mythology against a dark deity, which is called Tezcatlipoca, which is a black panther. The Black Panther deity is like a deity of night and of deceit and illusion. It's like a trick maker. It's like of conflict, of like distrust and conflict. So there's like a specific type of I've heard someone reference a figure of belief that was like, we are in that cycle of night, and we're waiting for the second coming of Quetzalcoatl, who will bring again like an age of peace and enlightenment and prosperity. It's like commerce and good fortune. Quetzalcoatl stands for so many of the things that I represent, so many of the things that breathe life into this world and make the world good, And yet there are so many conflicts, so much fear, so much control through fear. And to imagine maybe that's not the base human element or the base human pattern. Maybe that's just all we've ever known and seen in recorded history has been that. And to imagine a different way, So it's a sci-fi fantasy mythology based on this concept that there's this forgotten age of light, and we follow a a warrior princess from this age of light that had like fallen, and she returns and becomes the avatar of this deity of light, the Quetzalcoatl. In the other side of a cyclical mythology, like 20,000 years later, she returns, and the world is at a turning point to move towards this age of light. And she's like a warrior, you know? I follow so many video games and, like, you know, fighters and heroes, and to think this would be like the end of the age of conflict. So she's gonna have to out conflict them, and, you know, ignite a wave of collaboration of like everyone around the world. The seeds have been planted and the time is coming for change. So it's like, yeah, their victory and the transition is inevitable, but what isn't is the way the world transitions. If it's through destruction and most of the people die, you know, if it's like this huge conflict and then slowly the age of light comes in, or if they're able to defeat darkness and cast out evil and everyone survives, you know, or most of everyone survives, you know, and they get to keep all of their progress that has been made through the age of darkness and transition not only peacefully but beautifully, dynamically, in celebration and victory to this age of light. She's awesome. I know she's got to have a name. She's got to have a name. I call her Quetzalcoatl Girl, but obviously that is not her name or even her title in that world, you know? I don't know if we could use directly the Quetzalcoatl mythology, because that would make it like Earth, you know? There's ways we could tie it in or do something entirely original, but the deity of light and even its appearance with like the feathered serpent and like rainbow colored feathers on like a dragon, it's too cool. It's too fucking cool. And casting out like the god king of night, who is there's avatars in this world who embody the power and the spirit of each deity. Because they exist on like a different plane of reality, a different dimension. So they need avatars to move in. He still looks just like a dinosaur. He's got to look happy. He's at least got to look like a happy dinosaur. You know, they'd be like glad to see you. Agumon is so happy. He's so upbeat. And like, I'm Agumon. And he's just like, you know, cheering Taion. And realistic isn't necessarily, you know, the style we'd go with, but like realistic maybe, and then rendered with like Pixar type, DreamWorks type, like a glowing animation, something soft yet techy, you know, reflective of Japanese stuff. And this is just a first draft with the full idea that if someone else, and there are many people that have so many talents that I don't have, could take this idea, this concept, and develop it further in a way that could have more widespread appeal. I'd like to see some of the ideas like make it through, or only work with someone that I deeply trust, and try and get someone on board with it, at least in like the funding department. Or, you know, if we were to do this first, that would be the way. If we'd built up like a really big following and a network of collaborators, we might be able to do the thing independently and have like agents and such that reach out and would first, like, you could do it with an entirely new type of mon, don't get me wrong, right? And just take the ideas of an RPG battle system and a bunch of vibrant monsters and the Tamagotchi system, you know? You'd have to see which one would be more popular and successful. As Digimon's not even that well known anymore, it's pretty well known. And there was a time, like I came up with this idea a while back, you know, it was like 17 or 18, okay, and I saw an ad for a Digimon smartphone game on my phone. There's nothing like the concept of this, of course. This is not too long after the Pokemon Go craze, and it looked pretty basic, but it looked cool, and it had the Japanese theme song for Digimon Butterfly playing, which is over time. It took me a while before finding the song again, but it's my favorite anime song. It's so goddamn good. It fills me with joy and light. And if you listen to Koji Wada's voice and the lyrics behind the song, you know, they're very like just my favorite blend of like the most poetic, abstract anime concepts, but they all feel real to me. And you just think of them, that's like a symbol that's then embodied through the vocal performance, the way that they sing, the energy and the emotion that they bring into it has to be attached to the words. You know, if you just read Japanese lyrics like they're spoken word, you know, they sound really goofy. Of course, I think if you just read like a lot of English lyrics as though it was spoken word, especially in a different language, they would sound goofy as hell. Yeah, they'd sound super goofy. We're doing a good job making Agumon like cuter and happier, you know? Yeah, Koji Wada's voice means a lot to me. It was a song that always convinced me to just never give up, you know, to never give up, to find the joy, to keep going, you know, like somewhere there's a light that doesn't go out, and that light is in you. You can tap it through your willpower, you know? Those anime themes still get me to this day. And they tap on universal things, like not giving up is something you're gonna have to do for your whole life, and it's something that you have to do in really hard situations. Yeah, like finding the strength not to give up, to get back on your feet, to believe in yourself, right? To believe in a higher power, to keep kicking ass, to find the joy. Like that is with you through the heaviest parts of your life, and having these kind of, you know, metaphors that have a lot of levity, you know? Levity and yet weight to me. I still remember the emotional significance of watching my favorite anime back in the day. Just like Gundam Wing, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, yeah, everything on Toonami, like Ronin Warriors, and then like Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, seeing a few episodes of things like Trigun, Full Metal Alchemist, Samurai Champloo, and then later getting the opportunity to buy and watch all of those are just some of my favorite series, leading to absolutely cherished masterpieces like Fooly Cooly exists as one of my favorite ever. There's also another one, Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann and Fooly Cooly are masterful and fantastic. And so many anime. Whenever I find a new anime, like Hell's Paradise was amazing. Yeah, Demon Slayer is awesome. Attack on Titan's got to be one of the best there ever was. Like, modern anime kicks ass so much too. I'm not watching any anime right now. I probably should be. At least rewatching a favorite series from somewhere. It was like Neon Genesis Evangelion was my favorite series of 2020. It was my favorite show or thing that I watched in 2020. It totally held up. I hadn't watched Evangelion, but had heard really, really good things. So it had like a legacy to live up to. And I watched it and I loved it. It was one of my favorites because I cared about it. Every time I watched the show, I cared about the characters a little bit more. And the world, it captivates you. You want to see what's going to happen. It's awesome. Okay, so I think probably less combat-oriented Digimon. This is kind of just me referencing a dude here and changing the angle, of course. If you're just starting, you do not have to change the angle on your references, but it's something that you should try. And even when I didn't have nearly as much skills as I did now, every time that I would try to change the angle and like figure it out, especially if you start drawing with boxes and you learn foundational design, then it is something that would be really helpful to you. So first, like, reference them out and figure out where things are. You can even use a grid if you need to, or you're short on time. And then with those measurements in mind, to take note of each of them and then try to change the angle and fit it into perspective. And as you do this, you'll learn more about perspective and design, shapes, forms. You'll start to gain a three-dimensional awareness of anything that you draw. And that's awesome. That's super awesome. Yeah, I've got a few series of like the intro to foundational design, and that's just what I call like having a sturdy grasp on like constructional drawing. Constructional drawing is the foundations of design, and then to also learn design skills, which is like Feng Shui. Like we might go in and share how we put together different forms and then remix them and come up with original designs, but Feng Zhu covers it really, really, really well from a whole bunch of different angles. So he's one of my favorites for sure, but there's dudes like Ahmed Aldori. When it comes to foundational design, there's masters like Peter Han. Gotta give a shout out to Peter Han for being one of my favorite guys in the world right now, for doing a Proco video series where he shares his original dynamic Bible. It's like how to draw dynamically. It was the book that he made. It had a super limited run and you couldn't buy it anymore. And I remember back in the day after watching Peter Han thinking what I wouldn't give for the dynamic Bible right now. Like the few references that he did give in how to draw things were really, really good. Like how to draw tigers and stuff, how to make a map and like learn how to draw shapes and draw in perspective and dynamically, like with a solid line work and movement. All of these awesome things. And I was like, I wish he could reference everything. And he references so many things in the Dynamic Bible video. I'm going to go back and reference some more of it. I did a single page, but then from there started to remix it. You know, he tells you how to draw animals, and there's a specific Feng Zhu video. I'll link up, if not here, in another video where we talk about it. Where you're like drawing turtles with him, and he's showing you how to reference animals. And in the last like 10 minutes of the video, he turns the turtles into a whole turtle riding like society, a culture, and like adds these designs together, how to use your references and then add things to them and change them to make them fantastic. You know, you can make them bigger or smaller. You can do designs and patterns and paintings on them. Just that will make you some cool things. But then you can change them. If you learn how to draw a snake or an alligator, then you can draw a body of like, you know, different body types where you're like, you know, body type and head. And some of them are like big chested and like long armed and like small legged, like an ogre body or something. And then, you know, some of them are like big and like fat, you know, little legs. Ahmed Aldori does the bestest, like just a general like fat build, and he does a video that's amazing in taking different characters and then changing the dimensions on their proportions, right? So like making them skinnier, making them longer, drawing like dwarves and elves. And when you do, you don't just change the size and make them a little bit more stout, but you can change like the, you know, how long their arms and legs are, which is specifically like handy when drawing creatures, where you want creatures to have a different body type if they're like a werewolf or an ogre or something. So yeah, dudes like Feng and Med and Cynics has an amazing series where he like commentates and gives his perspective on all kinds of different aspects of design, from like shape design, and it goes into like whether you're doing painting or illustration or using art as like a hobby or a craft or storytelling, making your own series, doing fan arts, or something like creating your own worlds and making design art for a story or game or concept or animation or whatever. And those are only a few of them. Just check out like everyone at Lightbox. You know, everyone at Lightbox. Proco deserves a great shout out for creating a gateway to all of these different artists and designers, and fun. And you know, you don't get all of their foundational series on Proco, so I can't review it, but all of the little pieces that I did get were really nice, and some of them handy. It doesn't quite fit into my like personal style. The Proco style is different than mine, but I definitely respect it. I respect it still. Yeah, so if you're drawing ogres or werewolves or whatever you're drawing, and then you add in different dinosaur or animal parts to it, you know? And change around the dimensions a little bit. It would be like a rabbit guy, right? To try and think of things that you might not expect. This rabbit guy, and he smokes a cigarette and has a breastplate, and he's like the bodyguard for the party. I don't know. He's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we got Agumon, we got one of these. We could do a couple different general Digimon designs, because you want to capture, if we're doing the Digimon thing, the art style and aesthetic of Digimon, which is a little bit techy, a little bit modern. Their creatures have a lot of character to them. Like, they don't seem like a bunch of things that would roam the fields and exist naturally, so much as like a persona or a creation. Like, they've been created in this digital world to have these very specific characteristics. But who knows? They could even just do like the Pokemon thing, where they do seem like they are, you know, natural creatures within this space, within this world that we create. The idea that it is a digital world that exists parallel to our own, and these things exist in that digital world, and then you explore the real world doing Pokemon Go things, but there's actually battles, there's actually combat and progression and little like strategical puzzles that you have to figure out when you're fighting, and you know, that would be so cool. Okay, this is like the intro to Digimon design. I'll probably go in and design the original series of Digimon, because each of those were made to be like the core Digimon to a member of the cast. Digimon was a show before it was ever a game or anything, so there's specific care and attention. I need to make sure that that is the case, and that the Digimon Adventure Show was the first piece of Digimon media. Why don't we do that now? Just search Digimon, and I'm sure the Wikipedia has when and how and for what reason it was created. Yeah, always be checking things on Wikipedia. I'm not sure how much space that I have in my camera right now for filling up videos. Franchise has generated over $500 million in sales. Yeah, Japanese media franchise which encompasses all of these different things. Parallel universe originating from the Earth's various communication networks. Like, the communication networks are, you know, our collective imaginary comes together and creates this other space, digital world. Very, very cool. None of that's copyrighted, and you could use aspects from their premise and their story and remix them into your own idea. But I'd at least pitch for the idea of a new Digimon game being really, really cool. I mean, I was pitching for that, but I don't know if it should be Digimon. It probably shouldn't, if you're talking about how to make it as effectively as possible, where you wouldn't have to offend any fans if changes made. I just kind of wanted to see Digimon come back to life and be really cool and really strong again. I feel like there's a lot of people that do, but if you're focusing first and foremost on how to make the best thing possible, you know? How to make the best thing possible and shoot for the stars and make it as cool and as big as it could be, but also how it could be the coolest thing for the fans is the main thing, in my opinion. You want to work out how it will be a success so that it can get made, you know? And then once you've done that, to really, and for me, in concept, that's the first thing. That's the thing, if it's something that I want in the world, right? And then after that, you think of how you can get it made, how you can make it successful, how you can make that success as guaranteed as possible. Like shark head. Sharks are like, this is more of a lizard head than a shark head. We have to look up a shark to be completely sure. Yeah, shark. Patamon. Patamon's my favorite Digimon. The one with the super gnarly mouth. You know? Let's see if we can draw a Patamon from the memory here. Let's see, this could be like a giant worm. To reference some Final Fantasy monsters would be good. I don't think that many people would want like a giant worm thing in your party. So you give it like a really appealing face. Worms are something that I learned how to draw when I was like a kid, before I learned how to do three-dimensional space even. I was like, you can curve around and then curve into the distance and make like a worm shape. So as I learned three-dimensional design, I can draw worms really well. I want it to look not nice, but it should look cool. I don't know how you can make a cool worm. Less angry, please. Yo. Yeah. Happy worm. Then you can do different kinds of designs. Our designs are like colors. It'd be a really colorful worm guy. And they're placeholders for colors. Try to stop talking like Fengzu. He's just my guy when it comes to finding a way to explain art stuff to people. I like his commentary a lot. So I've never seen that many people around me give examples of how you talk when you're demonstrating art stuff. You tend to go back to wherever you learned any specific pattern of language, or at least I do. If I'm using like slang that me and my friends, would use, that I started using and added to my vocabulary when I was hanging out with specific people, I will usually sound kind of like how I did then when I adopted said patterns. Okay, awesome worm. And this is a good intro to this series. I feel like it's not bad, we can make something that's for a more like mass audience, like whoever you are. You'll appreciate this and just come in knowing that they're gonna come in without any preconceived ideas of how this thing's gonna be. Have no knowledge of our project and ideas. We come in and just do an example of some art technique stuff and make shorter videos so that we can build an audience. Make a whole bunch of much shorter videos where we can make stuff like such a gnarly mouth. Like doesn't even have like lips. We'll look up a picture of Patamon now. I don't think it has ears. It's just like a little flesh guy with all of these super gnarly teeth. Like a huge like monster mouth in the most, lovable little guy. Yeah, I'm sure Agumon used to be my favorite of Digimon. I think Patamon always had me. And they all came in this little baby form where there is just this hyper lovable thing before they evolve and become more of a fighter. So they get that bond from that place of just caring for this beautiful thing. We could really literally this game would make so much money. I was sure like the potential of it being $1 billion game is definitely there. Like Pokemon Go was so radically successful, and these other RPGs, sometimes puzzle, like these mobile games on app are some of the most financially successful games of all time. Oftentimes they don't have even that appealing of a sense of design. They just do something really, really addictive, something that gets you there quick, something that gives you a dopamine release. And we're like, maybe we can make a project that gives you the dopamine release that you want, but in a way that is actually healthy for your heart and mind and soul. Something that gives you a lot more than that dopamine release, but would still get people on board, right? That would still get people, a game that does care about you as a player, that wants your highest good and well-being isn't something that you see that much of, you know? There's a lot of games that kind of, you know, they go for that through metaphor, you know? Final Fantasy and The Legend of Zelda. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of games that are uniquely positive for a lot of people, you know, that create a sense of good and like a game that believes in you. This Padamon's looking scarier and scarier. Oh my gosh, yeah. We'll let it be. We'll actually look at a Patamon and do some remixes of like set Digimon, certain Digimons. Then maybe we will come up with original ideas for creatures. I found like a spectral fox thing. It was like a little creature with these giant ears. Ears weren't even that giant, but big ears, yeah, and like little beady eyes, yeah, in the front, and like small face. It had like, you know, fennec fox type proportions on it. I don't even think it had like a nose or anything. Like, you know, it's like running. Yeah, it's like running into the distance. So it's four-legged creature. It's just the most cutest thing ever. I was like, oh man, this thing looks like the next Pikachu. And it had like space for its body. This is a beautiful little thing. And I was like, I want to see someone run around and do adventures with that thing. We'd want to change it up. We don't want to use anyone's design exactly, you know? If we change up a few things, I'm sure no one would see. No one would notice. I want to say, I don't think I've ever done that, but certainly when I was much younger, many of my designs were just like a Final Fantasy design or a design from one of my favorite cartoons or anime shows, because I didn't have that many tools to remix them and didn't know the ways to combine like a vast, diverse collection of things together. I mean, I suppose I could have figured it out. I just didn't reference that many diverse things. And would just like go with copies of anime things that I already knew how to draw pretty well, right? So that I could, like, you know, I knew the drawing was going to be a success. Yeah. And it took me a long time before I started being more ambitious. But I was usually drawing something that I loved and cared about. And the things that I was remixing were very dear to heart. And they were like, I want to tell stories with characters like this. You know, I want to tell stories or create projects with dynamics like this. I don't want to forget these things, right? Because they were like things that were very motivating. It was beautiful, uplifting to me. Let's try and draw this like more quickly. Ooh, this is nice because it has a different shape to that creature. So much just like a little fox thing. It made me think of a monster hunting game and engine. And games like Palmon's blew my mind with how successful was Palmon, despite them not really investing in any artists. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know so many artists who were available for freelance at that time, right? And like so many good like starter artists and stuff. I was like, I get it, they didn't have a lot of money to make the project, you know? But if they released like a demo or something at some point to show people how cool and fun the game was and crowdfunded, they could have got probably enough money and backing to get any designers in the entire world to work on the game, and it would have been just as distinct and unique and awesome as Pokemon and would have made like $100 million more. If they could have also invested that seed money that they would have got as soon as the game was like playable and able. I mean, I'm not saying what they did was bad. Obviously, they made a whole bunch of money, but I would have loved to have seen it become a treasured game series that people were like looking out for instead of just being like a fun romp through this, you know, like a great collection of gameplay mechanics from other places that were put together in like deft precision and timing. It worked really, really good for a game with no budget, almost. But it was a popular game type. Like the game is fun to play. It was something that people wanted. It filled a niche. If like mainstream game companies would like make more of the games that people wanted, like they try, obviously, but sometimes I think they don't listen. Like a Pokemon survival game like that, the idea of that, it's been around forever. And I've been like, where is the next gen Pokemon and exploration, like 3D exploration in a Pokemon world for the longest time. And then, make designs your own. We'll put some markings on this dude here. Okay, we'll go into this. Maybe we'll do some Quetzalcoatl for a bit and just try and work a little bit of concept art on this concept in the way of like taking your coolest stories and trying to make them and mix them and, just working from where you're at to get a better handle for where it could go. You'll end up developing the thing. If you don't want to, you don't have to, of course. I mean, sometimes I still worry about like, yes, but if I developed it, I might develop it in the wrong way. If I could make other projects first, use them as a scaffolding, and then use the experience that I got off of those projects to do this thing that's really, really cool. But you can always try. You can start work on it, knowing that it might not be your breakout series before you have any experience and budget. If you want it to be like a master thing, you certainly could keep your cherished stories, but you should still work on them and try and design those characters. Too much hair, not the right shape. Okay, we're gonna go in and do reference of some creatures and monsters. Yeah, I'll upload this because I don't know that I can record that much more from here. At least get a cool Agumon out, If we did like Agumon but with some markings, that'd be cool. Like a magical painted Agumon. Not like painted, but like lizard texture. Or like, celestial lizard texture. Magical creature vibes. Magical creature, but with a little bit of tech on it, is a cool world. It's something that you haven't seen that much of. Like Pokemon's trying to represent this alternate world's biology. Sometimes it diverts pretty wildly when a guy's like a snow cone maker or something, like with legs and arms, like they have sometimes robot parts and like ribbons and things, like created things. Like, how do they ceremonially get their ribbons to Sylveon? It's like there's still some kind of like, well, that's its personality that's manifesting through the magic of the evolution and the power of the Pokemon, so they're like manifesting these seemingly human things as part of their body. Whereas in that way, you're like, if it's a digital world, it makes a little bit more sense, maybe. It's connected somehow to the human world. But I think people can just like, they let go of those things when you're immersing yourself in a world and give you so much credit and benefit of the doubt when it comes to, if you are immersing them in that world and giving them something that's cool, they will back you up so much. Like, there's no problem with people getting into the world of Pokemon, because it's like this creature collection adventure game, and they're giving you creature collection and battles and exploration, and this adventure is your own, so it's like, yeah, so it's like they're there to play the game and have fun with it and aren't like, what the hell, this world makes no sense, there's no way Sylveon could this and that, and like they let their 10-year-old kids like venture solo across the world, because they can handle it, but yet there's active criminal organizations that are doing things. So, like, they're not that bad of people in the Pokemon world. Usually they're not, but sometimes it seems like they're in dire straits. There's all kinds of things that you could say, but instead you see fans engaging with the Pokemon world in thinking and considering what does make sense and the rules that you have set down as a creator of the story, as the author. You have so much jurisdiction over what are the focal points of this series. Pokemon's cooler than what I'm doing to this Agumon's face if I don't keep on. Yeah, and we'll do more things. As you're looking at different types of patterning from different places, you can look at different temples are some of my favorites, but then you can look at people that do fire, water, earth, air. Like, there's all kinds of different cultures that have all kinds of different art, and using cultural art as a starting place to create your own patterns, like patterns that, may never have been seen before. Yeah, no, it's like totally fine if the project ends up getting made, but it doesn't end up being Digimon, and we can still like imagine how cool it would be to see some of those retro designs remixed and that like aspect. But it being quite a bit different than all the other iterations of Digimon would also like, you want to do something so the retro fans are like, that's awesome. But if they're like, oh shit, my nephew's playing a Digimon thing, and you're like, here's some Digimon lore from back in the day, man. Here's some Digimon lore. Keep it going. And they're like, oh no, it's completely different than that. Oh, your Digimon lore is dated. And they're like, well, yeah. So there's just a wellspring of ideas for what could be this combat system, ways to make it fun and engaging, and at least a little bit, more than a little bit, satisfying. Satisfying to play, satisfying to move through, satisfying to see the progression. A huge amount, at least a large amount, but imagine a huge amount of creatures that you could find and collect, and there'd be random drops and whatnot. So you could share on a network of social media or Twitch, like, oh my gosh, I just found this really rare thing, and you'd have kids who are so flippin' excited, kids and adults and everyone, that they found a super rare drop, because there'd be a lot of them. This ties into ideas for our Gaia game, Everglow, a Terraria-like game with tons and tons and tons of RNG. And imagining it as an engine with all of these different things and so many rare things, that rare things would seemingly be happening to you all the time without running out, and no one person getting all of them even. And you just have to break it down to what could you feasibly do with modern production. What are some of the examples of the most things put into games, and if you had planned for it and expected for it, how you could make even more of them in a game engine and make it your own and your favorite and unique and awesome in all kinds of ways. I love thinking about game design. Since I was a kid, I've been imagining remixes of all of my favorite things, all of my favorite games, and then coming into adulthood, being like, I really want to do this professionally. I want to get into this. Year after year, I would learn more and more things from all kinds of different creators, and even entrepreneurs, like people that made new apps, people that make innovations in technology, people that utilize innovations in technology, and, to do something cool with it, do something cool with it and make it your own. And sometimes you go against the grain, sometimes it doesn't even take that much, but it does take a good opening. Finding an opening for a thing where there's desire for the thing in the world, and how you can meet that desire and that expectation, sometimes even subvert and go beyond the desire and the expectation to make something really new, something really cool, something that stands out. I've been trying to do that since forever. And even when I was a kid and all through my life, I would dream in games. I would dream of games that didn't exist yet. games with more advanced engines and whatnot. I remember playing PS2 games and having a dream that was definitely like a PS4 type RPG game. Like, it was like you could go anywhere. You could go anywhere, and the graphics were amazing, and it was like so immersive and awesome. It was a long time before I played Demon Souls, but I remember thinking, this is kind of similar to that game build that I saw in my mind. You know, it was a bit like Diablo, but you know, you could walk around in the third person and see things in real time as they were coming at you. And all these different, games that have never existed before. And I would always get the feeling of being so sad when I woke up. Like, I had that thing in my hands. It was the coolest game ever. And just the joyous feeling that you get when you're playing the coolest game you've ever played. When you're playing a game that is the coolest in any given way, it's usually like my favorite game while I'm playing it. Like, all the other games fade from mind. Like when you find a new band or a song and you have this one, like, it's not an escape from reality, but it is a divergence from your everyday reality, and you go into this other world, and you immerse yourselves in their systems and the nuances of gameplay and story, this other space. And what is the progression? What is the thing that gets you motivated to take it on? What is satisfying about the game? And you think about it when you're not playing the game. It's a release from pain and a release from stress. And it captures a sense of wonderment, and creativity. I love games so much, and I love that feeling that you get and know it so intrinsically that, I'd have so many dreams where I was like, in a game that didn't exist yet. It's what I knew, even when I was a kid, that I wanted to do when I got older. I was like, game design, if possible, every year. So not only have I spent a lot of time thinking about it and kind of have an aptitude for it, I think, but then have each year learned many, many, many things about game design and all the different types of game design, the different types of collaborations that you create. All right, this is fun. We'll go back in and do some more practice at this point. Now that we've gotten started, we'll do practice and reference a bunch of different things, and then come back in and do more original designs. Maybe do some fashion design. It was really fun to find all of these clothes and then start drawing all of these clothes. Bigger teeth? Yeah. Cool. All right, I'm sending you my love and light.